take all the lessons you've learned, unlearn it, start over.
Throw it away.
Right.
Welcome back to Doki Doki Drawing. We're here with Yazuki Wolf.
Hello.
Yazuki Wolf is here to talk to us about moving to Japan, having to change art styles, and then getting a job in Japan. How did you have to change your art style when you joined a company?
So it's kind of a continuation of what we were talking about last time. In the manga school, I learned that I needed to focus more on line art. Also that I needed to kind of adapt to the more popular styles, but I stubbornly refused to do that.
And you continued to stubbornly refuse to do that?
Yeah, so luckily I was able to find a small game studio that decided to hire me. And that was the first time where I kind of had to come to terms with the truth of the situation. And I think maybe because they saw me as having a kind of fresh take on things and being a foreigner, that it could be advantageous for them to have me in their studio, they hired me. But once I got into the studio, then when like the, can't say S hits the fan, essentially that's the point where I had to get real, because I was actually making stuff for production.
So you say that you had to, it's finally started to become real, that you had to make changes. So what was it first? Was it line art? Was it actual taste? Was it having to draw more female characters than before? Or was it having to draw more tanks than before? Specifically, which was the first thing that you've noticed?
Well, it definitely was an increase in female characters. Also,
Oh, really?
An increase in, I guess, focus on cute rather than cool.
Okay.
I think if you look at a lot of kind of Western illustration tutorials and things, it's all talking about the rule of cool, right? Make things look as cool as possible. Whereas in Japan, I think there was a lot more emphasis on making cute characters.
And that's male and female?
I think it was mostly female. There was actually hardly any emphasis on male characters at all when I was there. One of my coworkers, he did a couple male characters, and he struggled a lot to make male characters.
Right. And did you feel like that maybe came more naturally to you? Maybe being able to draw characters with older, sort of saggy skin?
Definitely. And that's why, like, there was one character I had to do, which was like the Emperor character. And I felt great. Like, okay, now I got it. I'm going to make this like really like weathered male character, and it's going to be great. And I felt really comfortable there.
That company probably felt quite grateful that they had you at that time. They're just like, oh, this is good that we took the chance on this person who kind of brings something to the table that maybe the other guys can't do.
Yes, but that's only like 1 in 10 assignments. Maybe 1 in 50 assignments, maybe.
Right. Can you tell us what kind of content that company was making?
Yeah, so this is game studios, so these are illustrations for games. But I think even in game studios, you'll find a lot of influence from like the anime style. So this first illustration here is for the game we were producing. It's called Archetype, and I was both the lead planner and designer, which is artist in Japanese. And originally they told me to just make sort of like an image concept of what I wanted the game to be like. It's kind of going off of what I was showing you when I was in school, where you have still kind of a Western approach to the painting, but there's some kind of Japanese influenced proportions to like the face, especially like the dryad in the middle. This is nothing like what the actual game ended up being like, because this was not going to be okay for Japan. So this is actually what the dryad ended up looking like in the end.
Just for my benefit, what's a dryad?
Dryad is basically a wood nymph, a wood spirit. So it's kind of, think of a woman crossed with a tree, and you got a dryad.
Oh, wait a minute. So this whole time we were joking about crossing waifus and trees, and that was a real thing this whole time?
Yes.
This whole time it was real. That was just a meme on the channel for the longest time.
Are you serious? I thought you were just joking. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't realize it was a real thing. All right. Well, I mean, obviously I could spend a long time analyzing exactly what has changed, but I think it's very clear all the changes that have been made to these two designs. But not just in terms of character shape and size, but also just the way it's been rendered. A huge focus on like well-defined lines and outlines.
Yeah, it's hard to say like exactly what like one thing that changed about it. The kind of proportions of their face, the proportions of their body, it's all different. But also the approach to the line art, and also even the coloring as well. Each assignment had sort of their own kind of requirements. You would have something called anime nudie. It's kind of like a matte coloring. It's not like a painterly mixed coloring. And then the next thing that you would want to know is how many layers of that tone do you want? If their hair is red, it's a red hair. But then on top of that, you want to have a shadow and you want to have highlights.
Right.
So that'd be 3 layers, right?
Okay.
And then if it's a more expensive project, they might want another highlight on top of that with maybe a deeper shadow on top of that.
Okay.
And if it's even more expensive, they might want some gradation. So they call it grade in Japan a lot of times. Maybe light in the background that's like shining over the character so that they would have a gradation of light or gradation of shadows. So that could be up to like 6, maybe 7 layers, depending on how expensive the project is. I'm saying 6 layers, but it's actually more like 60 layers because if you have red hair, skin color, you have 2 different colors for their clothes, you have maybe a different color for their belts or something. So each one of those multiplies. So it could be a lot of work if you add too many layers.
Who makes these decisions? If you're the planner, are you allowed to just make anything you want and say, this is how we're shipping the game, it's going to be Western themed?
No, because you're ultimately answerable to the CEO or the director. I was the lead planner on that project, but I wasn't the lead art designer. The general image and the general direction of the game was something that the CEO or the director or the producer would often be thinking about. But your most direct boss, I guess you could say, is the art director. They're the one that's going to give it back to you when there's something wrong with it.
So the art director is probably in charge of making sure that everyone who's drawing on the project is all drawing for the same, making it look like it's all belonging in the same game, I guess.
Yeah, and also that it's fulfilling the needs of the target audience that probably was determined by the producer or director.
Right.
So this is actually the same knight character from the original banner, but my first attempt to draw it in more of an anime Japanese style. But this one was one of the earlier ones that I did, so this is before I actually got it down. This is while I was still struggling. The first thing I started to learn when I was working professionally is that my main job was to make my art director happy and to make his job as easy as possible. So at the beginning, I was kind of bumping heads with him a lot, where I would hand him my work and he would send it back to me, say it's no good. I would take it personal, basically. I would get very upset about, like, how can you say this is no good? This is my art, you know? And everything just got a whole lot easier when I just put that aside and realized that my job was not to make my art. My job was to make his job easier and to make him happy, basically. Now, don't get me wrong, if you are an artist and you're doing your own kind of like art galleries and stuff, sure, that's fine. Just find your vision and be true to it. But when you're working in a professional environment, your job is to your client, and in this case, my most direct client would be my my art director in this case.
It's interesting. So it's like less about having to just straight up change your art style when you joined a Japanese company, but more about changing your mode of thinking, just your general philosophy towards your work.
If you look here at the close-up here of the shield, from far away, you probably didn't notice. You can see that the lines are actually intersecting each other. Something like that would come back to me, even if it was just in one spot. Like in this one, it's all over the place. This is a pretty bad illustration, to be honest. If I was just one spot, that would often come back to me saying, nope, you have to clean this up. And it would be a red circle just like that. It'd be like, there's lines are not good. This one, the line is okay there, maybe, but there's yellow paint seeping outside from behind the line, right?
Yeah.
That would come back too.
Definitely when I've looked at mobile games from the West, and I'm not saying that they're messy, I always just assume that it's meant to look that way. Like I was like,
right,
okay,
that's just part of the style.
Yeah, like okay, the grass is kind of blurry, and instead of like drawing every blade of grass with an outline, it's just kind of fluffy, and you know, it's got a brush stroke look to it. And I was just like,
yep,
that's how it's supposed to look, right? I just accept it. So it's interesting to see, like, maybe in your experience working on a project, and it's just like, nope, make sure that is outlined and there is no ink bleeding out from it. I'm
kind of in the same feeling that you had when you saw the Western ones, where I felt originally that the overall image is what's important. But now that I've gone through it and I kind of just gave up and said I'm gonna learn it, I'm gonna try to do the best I can in this new style. Yeah, you can really see the difference. If you get, especially when I play like games from like Steam, they have a lot of Japanese kind of inspired games. Yeah. Immediately I can tell that it's not made by a Japanese artist, because you can just see that the way that they treat their line work, the kind of proportions, everything just doesn't have the same level of care that I think the Japanese really do. In Japan, like I don't have any specific examples, but like there'll be things like if there is a button on a girl's shirt, the line at the bottom of the button will be thicker than the line at the top, because that gives you a feeling of weight toward the bottom, and even maybe possibly indicate a shadow even. Wow, okay. In Western art, I've always learned to put the most detail in the places that you want the person to look. Yeah. Where in Japan, I think that a lot of the art directors and people I worked with, they didn't care about that. It's like, no, everything has to be, there has to be attention to every detail. It doesn't seem that there's that same range of styles. It seems like everyone's kind of agreed that this is the style now. There's slight differences, but for the most part, there's kind of one style that everyone's shooting for. And it's kind of sad in terms of artistic expression, but in terms of production, it makes it super easy to have consistent art for a game.
Absolutely. Are you going to talk about this little dude here? Did they accept this design as is? Because he's great.
No, not quite.
Okay, so what are we looking at here? These are the small Minotaur or the large Minotaur?
Right. These are the small ones. So the big one, like I said, it was not much of an issue. It was pretty easy. That's what I'm used to doing. But then when we got to the small one, that's where I started running into trouble. This is my first attempt, coming right after doing the big guy. I thought, okay, I got this. It's just another creature, another like monster character. But they showed this in front of like basically the whole company, and everyone like gives their 2 cents about it, and everyone's pretty much agreed like, it's just not cute. I don't like it. And I was like, it's a Minotaur. Like how cute can I make it? Like I thought it was kind of cute because he's small, but like he's still like a strong like monster character. But anyway, I said, all right, I'll try to make it cuter.
Okay.
So the second one, this is my next attempt at making it cute.
Oh, look at this guy.
Yeah, I looked at like a bunch of like Pokemon characters and stuff, and I was like, okay, let's try to make a softer face, softer eyes. I think the mouth, though, actually, my art director drew for me. I think I just couldn't get a cute mouth to work. I don't know why.
Okay.
And this one is like you're getting closer, but not quite right. So then the third one is the final one that got me okay.
Really? So the third one is the one they went with, not the second one. Comparing version 2 and 3, I can definitely see where the second version, because of the focus on do they call it slant eyes, tsurime?
Right.
In Japan. Even though really the second version is the cuter look, the third one is definitely more of the recognizable. This is like a recognizable trope in anime. This is like a trope anime eye.
I recognize now that most of the anime and like kind of manga style characters, the top of the eye has a thicker line than the bottom. Not making a strong weighted line on the top of his eye is probably what killed it. Just
generally in art, once you put something like pure black on the screen, like your attention's drawn to like that one thing. And I think
that's actually why they do that, because it draws your attention into their eyes when you have a stronger, thicker line at the top of the
So I guess
eye.
that's definitely what's happening here, is like they're just used to having, the eyes always having these thick lines here, and that's always where your attention is drawn to. But I think everyone at home, you can all agree that of all these 3 designs, really, the one that they should have chosen is definitely this one here.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely the cutest.
It's the snarl. I like the snarl.
And he fits so well right on his shoulder like that, too.
Because it's on the shoulder as well. I think just that placement also really helps. In your experience, having worked in, the various companies that you have doing art, what advice would you give to a Western-trained artist who's planning to work in Japan? They want to stay in Japan, have the visa, and actually get paid to do art in, say, a game studio or, some sort of studio that produces illustration work?
I'd say take all the lessons you've learned in your like traditional training. Try to keep those, but also unlearn it and start over.
Do everything you're doing, but also throw it away.
Right. It's sort of like if you play an RPG and you've played through it with one character and you decide that you want to start over with a new class, you're not really losing everything you learned from the first playthrough, but you are going to have to approach it in a new light with a new set of skills, a new set of like rules and mechanics. You can't skip the beginner steps, because I think partly for me, maybe because I had already gone to fine art school in America, I had my graduates already. I kind of felt like I don't have to be a beginner anymore because I already did all that once, so I can skip ahead to like the level 60 endgame content.
Right, The
truth is I had to go back to being a beginner,
That is fantastic. That is such an excellent way to summarize it. That's amazing. Thank you very much, Wolf. I really appreciate your knowledge on this subject, and especially an experience that a lot of people can't say that they have, or maybe they're having trouble getting to, which is, landing a job in Japan and actually working in a company and understanding what your art director actually wants from you and what does the CEO of this company want from you as a planner.
No, I realize now we might have skipped a step because we talked about working in the job now. We never actually talked about getting the job in the first place, right?
That's
that
true. That's true. That could be a whole new topic. Listen, thank you very much for your time today. Everyone, if you want to check out Yazuki Wolf's stuff, we'll put all of his links in the description box below. Be sure to go and subscribe to his channel and to Doki Doki Drawing. And we'll see you all in future videos.